All right, we are live. Happy Tuesday, y'all. I'm making sure that I can see it on my end, and I'm gonna make sure that it's public this time because last time people were saying that they couldn't see it. So it's public now. So I think everybody can see it. So we live. Happy Tuesday again. I'm super excited. Beyond the White Couch has been amazing so far this month. Inviting other mental health professionals to dive into a topic. And so I'm super excited about having Sunny on today to talk about relationship shit.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, so this is a good one, and I think it's a good one, especially with the climate of what's happening in hip hop culture, social media, and all of that. I definitely see Sunny on TikTok turning up, talk about the relationships and her clientele base. So I'm super excited. So I'll go ahead and allow you to introduce yourself, and then we'll get started.
All right. I am so excited to be here. So, Sierra, thank you for having me. Guys, I am Sunny Williams, LPC for South Carolina and New Jersey. And I am the owner of Narrative Therapy and Company. It's a boutique online counseling agency. And by boutique, I mean small, guys, because it's just me. But I want it to be just me right now. And so I'm super excited to be here. Relationships, that is one of my kind of favorite kind of clientele to work with. So I'm excited to get into it.
Well, we're gonna go ahead and get into it today. And I kind of like to start off with this question
Mhm.
because it's definitely something that I feel like is still stigmatized, but mental health is definitely stigmatized in the Black community. From your perspective, where do you think that derives from?
Honestly, the easiest way to explain it and look at it is to look at, our history as a people and then the history of mental health as a whole, right? Like when you look into the mental health field, the godfathers of mental health are a bunch of white males.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so you have to think as a culture, as Black people, if it's something for us that's uncommon or something that we don't understand, we usually shun it. We like, that's not for us. I don't get that. I don't understand it. And so widely used narratives in the mental health field is either like, oh, you crazy, like you unstable, they gotta put you in a padded room,
Mm-hmm.
or you're rich and white and you pay somebody to complain. Like those are the narratives that are widely pushed out. So if you're sitting there as a Black person, you're like, that's not for me. Like, no,
Right.
they're not talking about me. Like, I got issues, but that's not for me. I'm gonna go to church or I'm gonna talk to Big Mama. Okay, so then that's gonna lead to stigma. But I'm so glad that we're in an age now where our generation specifically, and especially those young ones coming up, they're like, I'm not dealing with this trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta talk to somebody about this. So I'm glad that it's starting to kind of shift.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, talking about the history of mental health, because I think both of us can speak from our perspectives of going through our trainings in school. It's very whitewashed.
Mhm.
Approaches how
Mhm.
it's very hard to convey a message to be culturally appropriate
Hello.
for us. And
Hello.
so when you look at like theories and all that, which for y'all, that ain't nothing you need to know, right? But for us, it's like we're trained in a
Mhm.
way that's not even culturally something that we would want.
Correct. Mhm.
So that's a whole segment in
Listen.
itself. But okay, so we're gonna dive into this question because I think it's something that definitely we talk about a lot. Is divorce rates and single parent households in the Black community. They high. The numbers be high. I think the last time that
Mhm.
I looked at the number for single parent household in the Black community, I think the number was at 63%. 63% of um Black kids are raised in a single parent household. So in what ways do you feel like that impacts our community as a whole, but even individuals' mental health?
Okay, so I need you to ride with me for a second.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
got you.
okay. All right. So unfortunately, I feel like, and we can argue, y'all. I know y'all like to tussle, but I feel like in a lot of ways, it doesn't. Now, hear me out, because again, it's become what's normal or common for us, right?
Mm.
So, as a shared collective, as a people, we've been shown in the media that, people of color don't really have traditional nuclear families, two-parent households, whether, it's two women, two men, man and woman, whatever it is. As a people, we're not really shown that. It's like that doesn't too much happen for us, right? They gave us like Blackish, Family Matters, like that.
Mm.
What else
Mm.
though, right? Like what else though? So we're not seeing that. So in a sense, even though we know that it's not true, like I come from a traditional nuclear family, my husband comes from a traditional nuclear family, right? But in a sense, we've adopted it, even though we know that that's not the case, right? We're walking and talking it. We know it's not true, but we've adopted it. Okay. So again, I feel like that's why it's so important, to your point, to have therapists of color, because we're able to see like those cultural nuances and understand it. So if I have a client that comes to me and be like, well, yeah, I got my daddy, but I got my mama, but then I also got my stepmama, and then my daddy has somebody else on the side, I'm going to be able to talk them through that, right? And understand it, versus if they had a white therapist, they could look at them and be like, oh my gosh, I bet that was so traumatic for you.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about your struggle. Well, I didn't really feel like I struggled. Like that was my, you know what I'm saying? That was my life. So that's why I feel like, unfortunately, we kind of normalize trauma. I feel like, to answer your question, your initial question, we've normalized it. So if anything, we've normalized the trauma that we kind of collect as a people. But not a good answer.
That was good, because that's not what I was expecting you to say. So that's good. And it brings up something that I communicate often, is that what is normal is subjective. Because while you may have grown up in a two-parent household and your husband may have grown up in a two-parent household, I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So your normal environment, I don't know what that is, right? And so, but does that mean that how I grew up was not healthy?
Nope.
Right. And so you're right. The society creates this narrative that if you have this or if you have that, and you're growing up in something that doesn't look like what's normal to the masses, then it's not healthy, or it can create trauma. Now, is there cases where you people who grow up in single parent households or experience divorce, do they have traumatic experiences? Yes. However, just because it's that doesn't mean that it has to be a bad thing. Because I would say that even growing up, like, I would rather see somebody grow up in a single parent household with healthy parents and maybe step parents and maybe blended families, versus seeing somebody in a two parent household that's real toxic. Because I grew up with people who grew up with both parents, and it was like, I wouldn't want that life.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So I'm glad you rode with me, because that's where I was going. I was like, hear me out.
Yeah. So thank you for that perspective. Because I think that's definitely needed. So understand that normal is subjective, and just because it's broadcasted as these are the statistics or whatever, that doesn't automatically mean that mentally people are struggling. So I love that. So social media, hip hop culture, all of that, we see a lot of unhealthy relationship trends. We see these expectations of, whatever the case may be, right? Yes. You see your relationship goals, you see Sierra's prayer and all of that. What is your perspective? How you feel about that? And from a personal and professional perspective.
It's negative. It's so negative. And I love a good love story. I love a good reality dating show. I promise y'all I do. But it is so harmful, personally and professionally, from what I've seen. It's so harmful to attach the desires of your heart to like a snapshot on social media, or something that you've seen pushed by the media, celebrities and all of that. And I mean, not to mention, but if you are a person of faith and you have your prayers and your list and all of these things, whoever it is that you look to, your higher power, they're gonna give you what you need every time. Like it don't matter what's on, it don't matter what's on that list or that prayer that you said. You know, you can be like, all right, God, listen, I see it all the time. I see what you have done for others. But guess what? Like they gonna do something different for you. Like it's so much more important to focus on yourself and be doing the work to be the person that you need to be to show up fully in the relationship. And I can attest to that all day long. Like my husband, he wasn't my list. He was not my list. And babe, if you listening, you know you was not. You was not, because I had my, you know what I'm saying? Because we have our list.
Yeah.
And y'all, I'm so glad that he was not my list, because even if you have this list or you have these parameters, you can't catch everything, right? I grew up with my parents. My daddy doesn't cook, okay? He does not cook. My mom has cooked all the meals. They coming up on 40 years of marriage. I did not have on my list, God, send me somebody that can cook. But guess what? He came through. Because you don't like to cook. And so imagine me, silly me, not putting this on my list. What if I had a husband like my father who does not cook? How we gonna eat? How we gonna survive?
Right.
What we about to do?
Right.
So I mean, y'all, it's okay to have that list, but at the end of the day, I think the core values that you're looking for in a person is what the focus needs to be on. Like, who are they at their core? Right. And then maybe a couple of deal breakers. But girl, whoever listening, throw that list away.
So, okay, here's a question off the list. So do you feel like a lot of times people operate in this superficial idea of this who I want, and this, like you said, they have their list, and it's just like they start like kicking people to the curb because they don't fit the list. And it's like, well, you about to be by yourself.
Right, you are absolutely about to be by yourself. And again, that list ain't going. It's throw it away now. Throw it away. I just saw my hubby. He texted me. He said, "F that list." Right, babe. F that list. Like it's not for that, y'all. Like that superficial stuff, like you said, you're gonna end up alone. And what you need to do is focus more so on what you say your deal breakers are and those parameters, right? Because say they everything on your list, but then you sprinkle in some deal breakers, and then you sitting there like, well, it's a red flag, but at the right time it's like orange, yellow. Like I feel like I can get past it. Okay, well, you're gonna be 2 years into the marriage miserable because they was on your list, but then you ignored your deal breakers.
Yes, honey. Okay, so I just dropped in the chat. Focus on your deal breakers versus the list, because them red flags matter way more than them check boxes. Okay.
Hello.
Because even if a person is not okay, they don't fit your list. Let's say there's some things that you can compromise on. When it comes down to them deal breakers, bruh, you ain't often gonna get people to change that. And I think a lot of times, especially for women, we convince ourselves that we can change people. Whether you with a man or a woman, you think that you can change people, okay? And you can't. Sometimes you have to really figure out, okay, all right, here's my list. Here are my deal breakers, and all these other things I can, compromise on. So we got a comment over here talking about this is heating up, normal as some check. Caitlin done said, well, I got to get rid of your, scratch the list, sis. Get rid of the list.
Get rid of that list.
Get rid of your list.
Don't worry about it. And as my grandmama and mama say, choose who choose you. And I used to be like, because y'all telling me to settle. Y'all tell I don't want to. No, it is so much easier when you choose who chooses you. So I'm not saying get you a doormat or a yes person or something like that, but it's clear when somebody is choosing you, right? Yeah. Your efforts is matched. And then everything else can figure out. But when we be like chasing after people and we be trying to like fix them, like you said, and be trying to like make compromises, that's when we be on those struggle buses. Riding to nowhere.
Where you going?
Where are you going?
Where you going?
You're going right back around to single town because it's not gonna work.
So we got another comment, and I don't know if here's the comment. This is good. Michelle said this goes back to Black families being separated by slave owners to even more modern day families being portrayed on commercial, single parenting, justice systems, all of that. Like all of that. And again, just like Sunny was saying when she answered the previous question, you have to realize that what narrative is being pushed and whether or not that's facts or not. Right? Because it's not always going to be facts. Just because you're brought up in a 2-parent household don't mean it's always going to be, white picket fences and all of that. And just because you was brought in a single parent household doesn't mean that you're in a traumatic space.
Correct.
Yeah, so get rid of the list and hold up. Okay, Dennis, I see you. Dennis said we can't change people. Learned a long time ago if you don't have love, if you don't love that person for who they are in the first few months of the relationships, they're probably not for you, honey. Because people gonna show you who they are in the beginning. But again, that checkbox, ignoring of the red flags, trying to turn them into orange and then yellow, and then trying to somehow make it green.
That's never gonna be green.
It don't work that way.
It's never gonna be green.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. So of course, in today's world, and you've experienced working with kids and the demographic that you work with as well, we see a lot of non-traditional relationships.
Oh yeah.
And for forever, that's been, oh, we don't do this, or if you come from a religious background, that's demons and all of that. Speak to that, because I know that's your jam.
It is my y'all. It is my jam. I am an ally all day long. All day long. So let me first say, from the relationship perspective, whatever the relationship is, whatever your relationship is made up of, as long as it's like mutually respectful and safe, I can rock with it. I don't care what you tell me you into, right? As long as you being safe and respectful to your partners, whoever they may be, whoever you are choosing to love, I'm all for it. Because at the end of the day, they're having a lot of the same relationship struggles as heteronormative couples. They arguing about who taking out the trash too. They don't know how to communicate, healthy either. Like it's no different. And I feel like that's what people miss. Like when you say, oh, they are poly couple, oh, they are throuple, they over here doing that crazy stuff.
Are they?
Y'all, they not. Now, what they do behind closed doors, that's not my business. Whatever they however it work, that's not my business. But what they come to me for is normal.
Yeah.
And then from a professional standpoint, my clients, they're just in the LGBTQIA asterisk community. Like they struggle initially. I'll say initially they struggle because their family, friends, strangers on the street that don't know them from anybody, feel like they have, jurisdiction to say something about how they're choosing to live. And so it's very harmful mentally, right? They are super depressed. They have anxiety. They're uncomfortable in their skin. They feel like something's wrong with them, right? And so think about how harmful that is. And so every chance I get, as an ally, I try to educate people, because I tell them all the time, especially my clients that are in the trans community, and people want to, make them out to be monsters or dehumanize them or anything like that. Like I tell them every day, regardless of who you are, nobody wakes up and chooses hard. Nobody wakes up and says, you know what, I'm going to go outside and risk my life today. I want somebody to call me out of my name today. I want somebody to, threaten my life today just for being who I am. Nobody does that.
Yeah.
Nobody. And so we have to remember, like, they're human. People have real feelings. People out here just trying to live their lives day to day, pay their bills like everybody else. And that's the main thing. Like we're all human, regardless of who we're loving on or who we're trying to be in a relationship with. And so in the beginning, it's hard, but after a while, once they get to that point in therapy, like the working stage, and you start moving through transitions, and they get to that kind of like effort level, because you gotta get to that point where it's like, all right, this is my life. You either gonna be with me,
you either you here or you ain't. Period.
Either way. Because
Yeah.
as soon as they start living for themselves and not worried about that family member that's like stuck back in the day, you know, you see that light bulb, you see that glow kind of come to them, and
Yeah.
that's what I love. That kind of like
And
aha.
I think that a lot of times people don't understand. People don't respect what they don't understand. And it's unfortunate
Mhm.
because you really have to understand, like we were just talking about, when it comes down to single parent household versus people who were raised in the same household. At one point, that people used to be out here judging single moms, but then it'd be on the other hand, y'all out here like praising them. Well,
Which
what you
is
going
it?
which is it? But at
Mhm.
some point, you realize, well, some things happen, right? You know, divorce happens, but you know, if y'all want to talk religion,
Go back to the Old Testament.
if we want to go there, right?
Mhm.
But I think that a lot of times when people can't respect what they don't understand, it makes it hard for people to just operate in their truth.
You're right. Mhm.
And I had a conversation with my brother, and my brother just basically told me that peace is on the other side of truth. Doesn't matter what your truth is, you have to operate in that for yourself,
Mhm.
because just like you said, you're the one living your life, and nobody wakes up to be like, you know what, today I want to be gay, or today I want to be in nobody wake up like that.
No.
It's like, this just is who I am. This is what I, you know what I'm saying? This is a part of my life. And I think being able to just understand and accept that I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm this, you know, those are the things
Correct.
that matters. Because just like you said, when you use the term heteronormative, and I want you to kind of like break that down just for people who may not know what that means. If you can just kind of explain what that means.
Technical jargon, and unfortunately, in our society, heteronormative, a man and a woman relationship is in America is like the standard. So that's why it's heteronormative, right?
Yeah.
Agree to disagree. You know what I'm saying? But technical jargon, that's what it means, because there are so many other types of relationships out here in
Mm-hmm.
2022, and it's kind of been that way for decades, but there's just more spotlight on it, that we need to really kind of open up our eyes to, you know, other types of love, guys.
Right. And again, going back to what I said, normal is subjective.
I
What's
love
normal for you is not normal for the next person. So
right.
just being mindful of that. But we kind of got some comments coming
Mhm.
in. Michelle said, you know, it wasn't start until she started being okay by herself that she found her husband. Come on, talk self-love. Yes,
Mhm.
ma'am. And Rachel said homosexuality is a normal variation of human sexuality. Yep. I mean, straight like that. Like, I mean, educate yourselves, just like you said.
Correct.
I think that especially when you don't understand, and it's like, well, this is new, especially if you were brought up in the church and you've gotten one perspective.
Right.
Being open-minded to even understand something different is just so key to accepting people, no matter what their relationship status is. Um, Dennis said, it's hard in the beginning because you normally don't have an example. Yes. Um, yes. Representation matters. Kind of going back to what
Correct.
we said about even about mental health in the Black community in general, a lot of times people don't choose to go get help because there's not a lot of representation of people talking about going to get therapy, or because there's not a
Mhm.
lot, you know, the representation of therapists in the field is not high, as well. And so it applies to the variation of how people love, whether it's being a part of the LGBTQIA plus community or poly or whatever. Because it's not there, like there's no representation, like you said, to see that. And I think that, you know, a lot of times we see people comment on when you see it in cartoons, or oh, you're teaching
Oh
kids
Lord.
young. Go ahead and speak to it.
I be so done with the media though sometimes. Like I be so like I be so done. And I mean, I am guilty of it too. Like I remember I got my first throuple about 2 years ago. And I remember I went to my supervisor at the time and I was like, what's supposed to do with them? What they about to be? What they about to tell me? I don't know what to do with it. And she told me, she was like, you would talk to them like you would talk to any other couple.
Right.
Like, what do you think is going on? I don't know if I thought it was gonna be like 50 Shades of Grey, y'all. Because the media,
right,
with it, almost with anything that is not the norm, is so sexualized. It's so made to feel like, oh, what y'all doing? And it really took me stepping out of my comfort zone. And I had that first session with them, and I was just like, oh, y'all arguing because y'all don't know how to talk to each other in a healthy, respectful way. Oh, you mad because he ain't do what he was. Okay. Yep. Right. I know what to do with this.
Basic. The basics.
Right.
Yeah. But that's dope though. And to be able to even have that, perspective to talk about. And I know like with adolescents, for me, I've seen, they don't care.
No.
They willing to try and figure it out or whatever. They're a lot more open-minded. Right. Even from our generation, I think we kind of get the split of the tradition versus like the new. But they don't care, and they will educate you and be able to, you know what I'm saying? But again, it goes back to that education piece and understanding that at the end of the day, if you take away the titles, a relationship is a relationship. Correct. Everybody got issues with who gonna do what, everybody roles, responsibilities, communication issues, being triggered. At the end of the day, the way that it shows up is probably gonna be the same, but now you're just focusing on most of the people be inside people's bedrooms. Get out, because you don't belong there.
Correct.
You don't belong there.
That is 100%. Now, I will say a lot of my poly thruples, my couples, we at the point now where they be like, Sonny, and I'd be like, what? I'd be like, what happened? And then sometimes I'd be like, but that trust is there, and they know that I'm coming from a place of genuine, like, I got you, right? Like, no judgment over here. Yeah. I am a safe space for them, so that's why we're at this point where they can tell me like, let me tell you what happened last night, and I'll be like, okay, I'm listening.
And being understanding, and I think that was a big part of having Beyond the White Couch this way, with having other especially Black mental health professionals come in the space, is to just let you know, like, therapy can be a vibe. Like, it can be a vibe to where it's not you being on a couch and just having to be talked to in a way that you don't understand. Like, you can come in and feel like you just talking to your homegirl or your you can feel like that, and still it be beneficial. You gain tools, you start to see your life and your communication skills start to change. And I think, that was the intention of having the space, to where other people like yourself come in to be like, nah, like, they talk to me, we keep it real, I ain't gonna judge them, I'm gonna help them just like I would help anybody else, and we gonna, move on to the next. So what are some foundational things that you feel needs to happen to establish healthy relationships?
A few things, back to what Michelle said, self-love or self-awareness first, right? Being able to know who you really are, the good, the bad, the ugly, and then showing up as that person. Right. In the dating relationship. Because initially, sometimes we want to be our representatives, we want to be cute, we want to keep it cute. Like, don't keep it cute. Do not keep it cute. Like, you need to be your true selves 150,000%, because then that person can honestly decide, and you can honestly decide, all right, can I be with this person? Like, who they are, like who they really are. So you have to know yourself first so that you can show up as that person. And then I would say one of the biggest issues that I see in relationships, a lot of people say it's communication or finances. Yeah. But I feel like the biggest one is unmet expectations, both
Mm.
consciously and unconsciously, right? Because we go into it like, I don't have any expectations. Like, I just want them to love me and I'm gonna love them. No, you have some expectations there that you probably did not share, and
Mm.
you're expecting your partner to do X, Y, Z, and then it's like, you didn't tell, you know what I'm saying? You didn't tell me this. And I've seen this like personally and professionally with me and my husband. We were together, had our son before we got married, pandemic, all this stuff. We get married and we have 3 kids together because he has 2 kids from previous relationships. And my bonus daughter is with us a lot. And I remember, our first year in married, and he was like, you know what? I think it would be good if you would cook a hot breakfast for her before school, like our mamas used to do for us. And I was sitting there like, all this time we was dating, have you seen me, if it's not the weekend, have you seen me wake up to do any type of hot breakfast, right?
Mm.
And so this was an expectation that he had. He did not share it with me
Right.
until it came to like, I wasn't doing it. And so then you have to kind of like meet in the middle, because when you bring your expectations to your partner, right, they can say one or two things. They can say yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes that leaves room for compromise. So me and my husband, we came to a compromise. Was it me up at 6 a.m. making a hot breakfast? It was not. It was not. But there was hot breakfast in the morning. I just made it at night.
Right.
Right? Because I do feel like you have to be able to meet certain expectations, or at least meet in the middle. Because
Right.
you're saying, all right, I'm going to be with this person. They're bringing a need to me. Can I meet this need or this want for them, and vice versa? So
Right.
that's a big one. And then the last one I would say is like understanding having an understanding of balance, right? You need to look for, a lot of times people say you want to look for your equal or someone that you can be equally yoked with. I say you need to find somebody that you can be balanced with. And what I mean by that is nobody can give 100% every day. Nobody can even go to the relationship and be like, he brings 50-50, I bring 50-50, or they bring 50-50, and together we make 100. Or no, some people say, I need to come to it 100, they need to come to 100. We super.
Right.
No, you need to find like balance, because some days I have bad days, and I
Right.
may only be able to give you 20%. But as my partner, I need you to pick it up, get us to that 100, and vice versa. So you need to have somebody that you can ultimately be vulnerable with when you have those shortcomings or you have those weaknesses. So those are like my main, I'd say, foundational pieces for like healthy relationships.
I hope y'all taking notes. If not, you can watch the replay. But I think we need to kind of expand on this unmet expectations thing, because I think it's very common for people to walk into situations and, again, have their list, right? Okay, so now you worried about checking off your list. You see the red flags and you're choosing to ignore them. And then when it comes down to these expectations, you're expecting somebody to show up in a way that they've already showed you that they can't or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you get in a situation outside of just compromising, because I know that communication, especially in relationships, can be very challenging, especially for somebody like me. I shut down real easy when I'm triggered. Like, I'm gonna shut down, and then, or I'm gonna blow up. One
Mm-hmm.
of the two, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So when you talk about communicating effectively and those unspoken expectations, a lot of times it's because people don't know how to communicate. So what do you say to that for a person who may be struggling? Now, again, this ain't no substitute for therapy, because I'm gonna
No.
need y'all to go book a session if you need it. All right. But because communication, especially in the Black community, is we don't do a good job of communicating with each other or whatever. How do you speak to that?
That goes back to the self-awareness piece, right? If you know, like for you, example, if you say, I'm either triggered, I'm gonna shut down, or I'm gonna explode, right? That needs to be something that you come to the table with your partner to say,
Right.
these are my 2 modes. Okay. I'm either gonna shut down if you do this, or I'm gonna explode if you do this. All right. But then you have to allow yourself that self-awareness to be like, but I love you, I'm willing to meet in the middle. So let's
Right.
talk about how I can get to that middle. But if you don't know yourself to be like, all right, what am I triggered by? How do I respond to different emotions? Right? How am I
Mhm.
when I'm sad? How am I when I'm angry? How am I? Whatever the case may be, if we don't know that for ourselves, it's hard to express that to our partner. And so then the first argument comes up and they looking at us like we got three heads because they like,
Who are you? What happened?
what? Right, like what happened? Like what is this? So
Right.
you have to know yourself first so that you can come to the table and kind of, you know, work that out with your partner. And the way that I do things, now this might not be the right way, but the way that I do things with my couples, thruples, whoever that I'm working with relationship wise, I tell them from the get-go, I believe that relationships, healthy, successful relationships, are like well-ran businesses. They're like, well,
Come on.
that's not romantic. Well, no, it's not. But you're not always gonna have sunshine and butterflies. Like,
Right.
what are you trying to do with your relationship? You just out here trying to have fun, or you trying to build something? Because
Mhm.
if you're trying to build something that's lasting, then yeah, you need to look at blueprints of successful businesses. Like they have, audits, evaluations, they do check-ins, they do all of that. They have a mission statement. What are
Right.
they doing as a business? And so, I've done that with my husband when we were dating, because I was at that point where I was like, hey, this is where this is where I'm at.
Right.
This is where I'm at. You can get with it or get lost. He got with it, and then I got with it because he has things too, right? But even my couples, I tell them, I was like, where do you want to go with this relationship? And we write it all out, because you have to write it out. You have to be clear on the parameters that you're setting. Like, what do I expect? What am I working on? What am I willing to do? And then let's meet in the middle. What do you need from me? Because a lot of times we don't ask that of our
Right.
partners. And
Right.
we think that we're doing something that our partner needs or that they want. They're looking at you like, no,
Mm-mm.
no, I
It's
don't need
good.
that or want that.
Yeah. Right. You can't love people how you want to be loved either.
Mm-mm.
This is a good question. I mean, a comment about expectations that perhaps men don't think need to be spoken, because there are things that our parents and grandparents did that wouldn't work for us, but there are things they did that were vital in the household, that ensuring that the household is kept. Ro, thanks for that, because I think that's really good, because going back to what we was talking about these quote unquote relationship goals, the only relationship goals that you should have is your own.
Mm-hmm.
Because what works for this person, again, normal, subjective. What works for them may not work for you. And being able to take from what you have experienced growing up or the things that you've learned, you may be able to incorporate that in some ways, but not all the ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it works the other way too. Like, again, when you work in a capacity, especially with when if you go to therapy, that self-awareness piece is so key, because just like you said, you can't communicate something that you're not aware of, right? So I know, like, I'm triggered by time. I don't like to be late. I know that. But I'm gonna let you know up front. Look, don't be
Mm-hmm.
late, because I know what that does for me. But if you're not aware of even what that trigger looks like for
Correct.
you, you're not able to tell somebody else about that. And I think that's just something that a lot of people miss, because they're too busy focused on the show. Oh, my pictures. Oh, my
Mm-hmm.
wedding. Oh, we got
Yeah.
this. So we did this. And it's like, but are you really happy? Like, when you really sit down, like you said, the structure of your business, is it set up to be successful, and is there longevity in it? Because you can pop up with a logo any day. You can do that any day, right?
Correct.
But is there sustainability in that? And I think a lot of times people miss the elements of sustainability, even in
Mm-hmm.
relationships, because they're so focused on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So, talking about the show, weddings and um, social, like, again, going back to social media and all that, we see a lot of people put a lot of effort and energy in the show of weddings and social media and whatever. How do you think that impacts people's realistic expectations or reality as it relates to relationships?
Again, y'all, I love a good love story. I do. I'ma like it every time. I'm be scrolling. I'm be like, that is beautiful. That is beautiful because a lot of times it is. But just like when it comes to relationships and building a family, I always tell people and I tell myself, all right, we're not planning a wedding, we're planning a marriage. What's
Mhm.
going on? We not having a baby, we having a person. What's going on? Like what, what's the plan? So if you got the money to do it big and that's how you want to do it, I don't pay your bills. By all means, do it. But that same effort that you're putting in to like these moments and the wedding and these baby showers and all of these things, put that same effort, that same money and investment into the relationship,
Mhm.
into being a parent, right? Because it's all that for sure. That's nice, but that's like one day, that's one moment.
Mhm.
But we talking about building a lifetime. We're talking about raising a person, a whole human being.
A whole
Those are
host.
the things. Listen, those are the things that you need to focus on.
Right. Yeah, that's good. Michelle said Michelle said she's supposed to be in the grocery store. You better go feed your family. Don't be fooling up with
I'm
us.
about to say, don't them expectations. If your husband expecting you to come home with them groceries, don't you blame us.
You better go home. Yeah, don't it ain't it Kareem, it's not my fault. Okay.
Don't blame
It's
us.
not my fault. So what are your top 3 reasons and that I ain't gonna say, I'm not even gonna say like every Black person, but I'm gonna say couples should go to therapy.
Okay. I'm glad you switched it up because I was like I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
I don't know every Black person.
Yeah.
And also, it's not for everybody. I feel like
Right.
everybody can benefit.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody can benefit, but it's not for everybody. Just like
Right.
college, not for everybody, right?
Right.
For couples, and again, it's not for every couple because you both have to be, or whoever is in the session, have to be willing to kind of like own your stuff and be
Mhm.
honest and transparent.
Right.
But if you're at that place where you're open to trying, then I feel like the main reasons are it's a safe space, right? So your therapist is always going to be or should be, an unbiased sounding board so that you can get it all out, they can get it all out, and then you can really like hear each other. Because sometimes you're talking back and forth, you feel like you're being clear as day, but you're not. You're not. And your therapist can kind of help you sort through that, right? And then another way is you can know yourself and your partner on a different level
Mhm.
when you go to therapy, right? It's a very vulnerable space. You're having to kind of like own your shit in that space and then letting your partner see that as well. And then I
Mhm.
also feel like it gives you freedom. And that's with anybody that goes to therapy. Like if you're going to therapy and you're doing the work and you're in that therapeutic space and you're clear on it and you're in alignment with your therapist, you get so much freedom because you're able to be who it is that you want to be. And that's my main goal. Like y'all tell me who you want to be, I'm gonna help you get there. Like
Right.
I want you out here living your best life on your terms, whatever that looks like for you. Adopt a new narrative. You tell me.
Right.
You tell me. You're the expert. I'm just gonna help you get there. So that freedom is the biggest piece that you can get from being a therapist.
And I think too that it gives you when you talk about that safe space, it definitely helps you be able to say things without a negative repercussion because your therapist is going to serve as like the referee, right?
Correct.
Everybody going to have a turn to say what they
Yep.
want to say, how, and then I know with my experience, it's like, all right, I'm going to say it my way, but then it's like, all right, Sierra, let's step out. And how could you have said that differently so that it was received in a different way or whatever.
Right.
So it gives you literally a different perspective for somebody who is focusing on not 2 individuals but 2 people as one.
Mhm.
And I think that really takes you to a different level of intimacy. A lot of times people think intimacy can only be achieved through sex. Lies.
Correct.
Okay, lies.
Correct.
Therapy creates a different level of
Mhm.
intimacy that I promise you have not experienced yet. You haven't you ain't got there yet because it literally forces you to face each other in the most authentic, like you talking about naked, like you got to get naked.
That's what I said, that vulnerability
Yeah.
piece. Like you have to. You have to.
We have a comment that says,
Mhm.
currently separated and have been for almost 3 years. My husband isn't open to counseling, and we've tried a few. She says she's getting overwhelmed, but they co-parent an 8-year-old, and it's hard, and her mental well-being has been impacted. Would you like to add something to her comment?
Yes, of course. First things first, she is not alone in this. I have actually 2 clients going through the same thing to where their partners, they weren't into it. It was like, "Nah, I'm good. Like, I'm not doing it." And again, be a little thankful in that because you don't want your partner to show up out of like almost like, well, I guess I got to, because then you're not gonna get anything out of it because they're not gonna be open to participating. Like they have to be open to doing the work. Now,
Right.
I will say that in replacement of that, the clients that I do have, I work with them individually because there are some things that maybe you can do to repair the relationship. You can't do it on your own, but there are some tools that you can get out of therapy to kind of like try to mend the fence or even get a little bit more self awareness in yourself. Like, all right, what am I fighting for and why? Right? Just a better understanding of yourself of, okay, let's say worst case scenario, we don't put it back together. How can I move forward and be the best version of myself for my kids and for a healthy co-parenting situation?
Yeah. And I just want to say thank you for being vulnerable
Right.
enough to even put that in the comments. Because sometimes that can be very challenging. But
Mhm.
again, that is what Beyond the White Couch is all about. So thank you for, first of all, sharing your comment. And just like Sunny said, even if you're not actively pursuing counseling in a couple environment, individually, again, life-changing capacity for you to go and even evaluate self,
Right.
because you can only control you. You can't control the other person. You can't give somebody else the motivation to go, to show up, to change, to make the necessary adjustments to make the relationship work. So, even if you're not actively pursuing to mend the relationship, I would definitely say start your research for your own journey,
Mhm.
because I promise you it will be worth it. Yeah, and if you have any questions, I'm feel free to reach out to myself. Sunny will provide her information as well if you want to reach out to her as well. But again, just thank you for your comment and vulnerability in that. Rachel said couples therapy should be mandatory for all relationships.
Wait,
Yeah.
Rachel, wait, no, wait a minute, though, because I read because me and my husband, because we tried it, but I think it's a little trickier because I was a therapist.
Mm,
And so yes,
yeah.
yes, but I'm gonna give us brownie points because he got it from me. He got like I was bringing the exercises to dates. I was like,
Right.
all right, let's talk about childhood trauma.
Right.
Let's talk
But
about
but even for a perspective of, let's say that you weren't a therapist, but you were going to therapy,
oh yeah,
your self-awareness would have brought a different version of yourself to the table to begin
correct.
with. You know what I'm saying? So somebody need to be a therapist.
That part, yeah. So
One
we'll
person
make that
got to
part.
be.
Somebody has to,
Yeah, because but
carry the torch.
it really does provide you and offer a different perspective. And again, somebody gonna show up to be able to come to them dates and be like, look, all right, so all your color and what your favorite, all of that is cute, but we gonna need to move on to this real stuff, because I need to make sure that
Yeah.
one, these red flags ain't red for real. Cause I ain't got time to be changing them to green. You know what I'm saying? So I think
Mhm.
even if everybody don't go, because sometimes you're gonna have resistance from somebody, especially
Correct.
for a person who has not become self-aware to even know that they need to go to therapy. You'll have that resistance. But if you're in a space where at least one person is actively in therapy, it's going to naturally, hopefully, improve the relationship as a whole. Hopefully, because again, resistance is real.
Mhm.
Roderick said therapy works. Oh, y'all see this black man talking in the comments? I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I am a strong, stubborn alpha male, and therapy allowed me to get out of myself and see things from a different point of view. I became a softer man who is not afraid to admit my wrongs and apologize, which made me stronger. And it has also positively affected my work. Don't be afraid to go to therapy. I'm just gonna leave this up here for a second because Black men, tap in, okay? Tap in. It's for Black men too. It's for but you know what? We got some Beyond the White Couches coming because Ro, I might call you. You might need to be on. But yes, therapy it works, man. You have to be willing to do the work because it's work. It ain't just showing up and that's it. You know, it's definitely work, but it works for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely work.
Michelle said, what y'all got for two people who are never wrong?
Oh, Lord.
Michelle, we gonna refer y'all.
Her husband is Google.
We gonna refer y'all. We gonna refer y'all. But go back to what Sonny said. You got to compromise. Compromise. Where's the compromise? Where does the compromise lie? Maybe one day you right and the next day he right. I don't know. We're gonna make a referral out. We're gonna refer y'all out. But we have some pretty dope comments. If you have any questions, we have a few more minutes. Drop them in the comments, or if you have any feedback, share it in the comments. But the last question I have before you give people how they connect with y'all or whatever is, what advice would you give to somebody who may be on the fence with seeking help?
Honestly, nothing to lose. You know, so much to gain. And just think about all the things that you spend money on, right? All the things that you've spent money on, let's say the last 3-4 years, right? I look at some stuff in my closet, I'd be like, why did I buy that? Why did I spend so much money on this? But then I won't take that same money and invest in myself and invest in my mental health. And I always say, therapy is not a crisis response, y'all. It needs to be in your, your daily routine. So just like you pay that trainer, or you done signed up for this weight loss program that you gonna do for the third time, invest in your mental health, because the money is going to be spent regardless. And a lot more companies are getting on board with like wellness stipends, or your insurance can cover it. Like, there's really no excuse not to at least try it. Like, what do you have to lose to just try it?
Yeah. And I will say too, just to add on to that, don't be afraid to try it, but do your research now. Don't be just going to hop on the train because it's trending, or because you like, oh yeah, like, do your research into getting a vibe from whoever you're looking into, and being aware of that. What does that person, what kind of feel do you get? A lot of times people offer consultations, and you can ask questions and show up to those, and be able to get some kind of an introduction before you actually decide to commit to services. But do your research when it comes to finding a therapist. But there's nothing wrong with going to get help, and it's worth it. Just like Sonny said, you don't have anything to lose. Like, you have so much to gain from going, and it's life-changing. Like, my therapist is my dog. Like, she's always going to be on the payroll. Like, no matter what's going on, we here, and that's where we're going to stay, right? And it also doesn't have to be a long-term thing, because most of the time, if you're effectively learning skills and applying them in life, you might not need to go see your therapist once a week or every other week or whatever. You might only want to check in once a month or quarterly or whatever. You can phase out. So it doesn't have to be a permanent solution. However, in the meantime, if you are not self-aware, if you're not understanding yourself and, having issues in your relationship, it's worth it. It's worth it. For sure.
Agree. I see my therapist every 6 weeks at this point, because she'd be like, all right, now, you know what you're supposed to be doing. So if you're going to do it, or you're not going to do it.
Right.
And we're there now. But of course, I started out going weekly. And I would say, if you're looking for a therapist, like, ask questions. Like, I would not go to a therapist that did not have a therapist, because Are you doing the work? Like, you gonna tell me to do stuff, but are you doing the work?
Facts.
Like, you're not gonna go somebody to get your hair done and their hair not done.
Mm.
I don't trust you.
Okay.
I don't trust you.
Because what did you do?
I don't trust you.
So how can the people connect with you and find out more about you, or if you have any social media, kind of let them know?
Yes, all of my social media, guys, is at Your Life, Your Narrative, or you can go to my website at www.yourlifeyournarrative.com. So like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all Your Life, Your Narrative. And then as well, guys, if you know of anyone with these relationships, because I love it, later in the summer, I'm going to be doing a relationship rescue. It's going to be like, boot camp.
Okay.
But I'm going to get y'all right. And it's going to be curated based off of what your specific needs are. Whatever your specific relationship struggles are, that's what we're going to do. And it's going to be like therapy on steroids, because we're going to get into it. It's going to be an intensive. So if y'all are interested, the end of the summer, relationship rescue. Can't wait.
Super dope. Super dope. Thank you again, Sunny, for hanging out with me on Beyond the White Couch, and everybody who tuned in and commented and chimed in. Feel free to leave your comments, what you took away from today. Share this with somebody else, and make sure you're staying up to date with what I have going on here with Beyond the White Couch. We have another one coming up next week called Black Woman Disrobe, and we taking off all that Black women handle. And then I do have a month that's coming up soon. I haven't decided which month it is, but we're going to focus on Black men and mental health as well. If you have topics that you would like to see on Beyond the White Couch, because I don't mind going there. Like, I don't mind going there. Feel free, shoot me a message. Connect with me. Let me know what you want to see on Beyond the White Couch, and I'll definitely we'll have it, because I'm all for it. Okay. But changing the narrative of mental health, just having these types of conversation really does do something for the culture. So that's all that I'm about. But again, thank you guys so much for taking the time to hang out with us. Connect with Sunny, connect with me. We here to talk about mental health and really change the narrative of what mental health looks like, especially in the Black community. But I hope y'all have a good night.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.